I was not present, and if there's a motion,
We don't have any minutes.
We don't have
Yeah,
any minutes.
Mr. Crowe,
Ma'am.
yours should go right there kind of in the center of the table. Mr.
Oh,
Maybe y'all didn't make it. Saw that.
this is from the ninth.
Hello.
This is from 2 weeks ago.
How you doing, sir? Good to
We
see you.
didn't have that. We didn't make it.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes. So, your minutes for the last
so the
meeting.
minutes are from the ninth.
Oh, from the ninth.
Please take a seat, please take a seat.
Are we
Matthew.
on tape? Who's on first?
All right, off the rails already. If you would, take a look at the
Hold on,
minutes
man.
from the April 9th meeting, and if there's a motion to adopt, we'll entertain that.
Where am I?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are adopted. Item number 1, under new business, number 1, general fund budget revision number 14. Ms. Standridge.
Good afternoon, council.
Good afternoon.
This general fund budget revision is to request movement of $20,222 for usage out of the, what we call LESO funds for TPD vehicles and equipment. If you will recall, I brought a similar item a few weeks ago. LESO funds are basically proceeds from the sale of equipment that we have received through military surplus. We receive military surplus equipment for free. We're required to use it. If we then surplus that and sell it at auction, we're required to use the proceeds from that sale back into the usage of TPD equipment. This is a request to use those funds that we have amassed in that exact vein. Like I said, $20,222 for some general repairs on TPD equipment that he currently owns. Chief is here to describe any usage of that as needed.
Chief? What kind of equipment we repairing?
Yes, sir. We're going to stripe up our EOD, our bomb truck. It's currently unmarked, put graphics on it. We've got Ford F-150 storage systems for equipment that'll go in the back of those trucks. Installing 4 of those. We have 2 generators that have reached the end of its life, so we got 2 new generators from the military, but they do need some crossovers for different parts to go in that, and then also repainting our light trees and some of our other equipment that needs just cleaned up for appearance-wise.
Gentlemen, any questions, comments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
item is approved. Item number 2.
Good afternoon, council.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
This is an exciting day here. I'm gonna set my big file down. There are a few projects I've had the opportunity to work on at the city that have been as long in the making, and probably just quite frankly as sheer big in impact. I've told council previously when I've briefed you that this project really first came to the city probably in about 2013 or 2014. I started the city in 2014. And actually when going back and looking, I found notes where Tim Nunley and Mr. Pate's team had met on this project as far back as 2010 and 2011. And so this is a 13 to 14 year project in the making. You've all heard of Encore. You've been briefed on it. I don't know how many times over the course of the last year when its most recent iteration came before you. It has started in a number of formats, including a TIF district that was discussed when I was a young lawyer in the office, until a proposal for a cooperative district was initially presented back almost a year ago. Since that time, we have spent a lot of time sort of beating this thing into a shape that we thought was best for the city, including hiring financial advisors from outside and outside legal counsel from outside my office to help us get our heads wrapped around something of this complexity and make sure we were doing it right. As I've mentioned, we've come before you on a number of times to brief the terms and have kind of beat this thing into submission with suggestions from council. So I will go over the sort of key points of what is ultimately about a 40-page agreement. The first key point, and this was one of the things I think was probably most important to everybody sitting around this table, was that there will be no upfront cash from the city, no debt issuance of the city. There will not be a debt or a bond made from the city as part of this deal. Next is that the developer must build all of the infrastructure, has to build the infrastructure to city standards and dedicate that infrastructure back to the city for public use. That has to be done before any of this property could be assigned. And so this isn't a situation where somebody could put part of a project on and then walk off and get rid of the rest of it. This is a total incentive package far greater than anything the city has ever done. It's a total of $65.1 million, or tax incentives until December 31st of 2048. This is whichever comes first. If that year hits before those incentive amounts are reached, then the agreement will end and tax abatements will end at that time. If this development is successful, we may hit the $65.1 million cap prior to getting to 2048, in which case the abatements would end at that time. The incentives will only come from money generated from this project. And so this isn't only money that is created and paid from this project will be rebated back. No additional money from the city will go into it. These incentives are also designed based upon both the infrastructure requirements and the way they are started. They're designed to give the developer every incentive to do this project and get stores open, get the development working as soon as possible. They have every incentive to go ahead and start earning money from the progress to be made there. This is, as we've discussed previously, part of the gateway to our city. A number of the people that come in either from the south or from the east come directly through that intersection and under the bridge that the state built. The proposal includes property uses of a car wash, some commercial retail, some convenience store, a full-service hotel, a limited-service hotel, casual dining restaurants, coffee-style restaurants, fast casual restaurants, as well as fast food restaurants, and I'll let the developers team go into more detail. We've also discussed prohibited uses. These prohibited uses aren't simply prohibited in the incentive agreement in that they will that they would be barred from receiving incentives, but a part of the agreement with the developer is that these prohibited uses will actually be property covenant restrictions on the property, with the city granted a right to file action under that deed if necessary. The prohibited uses include bar, pub, or nightclub, except those that are incidental to another use. Think of a hotel bar. Strip clubs or topless clubs, billiard or bingo parlors, flea markets, massage parlors, funeral homes, facilities for the sale of paraphernalia for the use of illicit drugs, facility for the sale or display of pornographic material, carnivals, amusement parks, circuses, facilities facility for any use which is illegal or dangerous or constitutes a nuisance, laundromats, a facility used for any types of gambling except for not to include the sale of lottery tickets, a facility for the cultivation, sale, processing, or consumption of cannabis or cannabis products, facilities for check cashing, pawn shops, payday loans, title pawns, or similar businesses, sexually oriented adult uses, tattoo and body piercing parlors, tobacco and vape shops, motor vehicle repair, not to include car dealerships or other uses with enclosed bays, multifamily residential or semi-residential facilities such as group homes or rehabilitation facilities, vocations or trade schools, thrift stores, secondhand or used goods dealers, and any bar, tavern, restaurant, or other establishment who is reasonably productive should not exceed 30% of the gross on alcohol sales, which would include hotel bars and those things. I can answer any questions council has. I know we've discussed this at length over the last year. I know council members had questions as to sort of a historic look back at our incentives. Ms. Standridge has that data. I don't know if you would wish to hear from Ms. Standridge first, or the developers team first, or questions for me.
Now, I'd like to hear from Mr. Pate's team. First, before you sit down, remind me, when does the clock start ticking? Seems, talked about 3 to 4, 27, 28?
The clock would start ticking, and Mr. Pate may be the better to answer that. The clock would have the ability to start ticking as soon as we execute this agreement. And again, that is the incentive that he has money-making years under the incentive agreement that will start immediately. And so he has every incentive in the world to get out there and start working.
All right. Mr. Crowe, Mr. Wilson, any questions of Mr. Holmes?
Reserve that.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pate?
reserve that, Scott, for later.
Yeah,
I have a question for you.
If you don't ask him.
You what? Good to see you again. Well, you dress up.
Man, big occasion.
I hope you didn't come dressed for me.
No, man, I can't just leave guys. Gonna be a wedding or something.
Well, nobody's gonna marry me here, so I hope it's not my funeral.
Listen, I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity today to come before the Finance Committee, but it's really coming before the council, it looks like. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to let me introduce some people that are here with me. I think all of you know Linda Peacock. Linda, if you'd stand up. I'll tell them what you do for those who don't know.
Mid-House Council.
Well, she's a little more than that. She's Director of Development. She runs a lot of the railroad that my train is supposed to stay on time.
Tough railroad.
There's been a lot of people who've been working on this project and standing and supporting and been excited and disappointed since 2009 when I bought the property. But when I bought the property, I knew, and all of you know, I've been investing in Tuscaloosa my entire adult life. It was the best property in this community. Just a matter of how to make it reach its full potential. 2009, I decided that I was not going to be one of these developers who took a building that was built in 1968 and tried to make it look like it was 2008, 9, 10 building. I was not willing to do that. I knew that would be very difficult financially because I would be managing that property empty so that I could tear it down. And I know I've gotten a lot of criticism, y'all have heard about it, but when people have leases, you have to honor their leases. The property was really controlled by a barber shop, the smallest store there. Just so happens he had some things that changed in his life, and he come to me and said, "Will you let me out of my lease?" And that was about as good a music as you could hear. You have Dollar Tree. Not long before I got the property, the McFarlands had signed a new deal with Dollar Tree. And I honor that deal. And that's what a landlord does. That's what a contractor lease is about. Dollar Tree has about 24 more months or something like that on their lease. So it's coming to an end. They're looking for another site, may have already found it to relocate in the market. And they've got to ultimately go through building a building and then moving. And for a while, they've suggested they may have 2 stores open. But Dollar Tree will ultimately be leaving the site, which gives us a clean sheet of paper, so to speak, to develop a new project. And we have been through several iterations. One of the iterations with Dollar Tree would stay on the site as a major retail center. We all know what's happened to retail over the years. It's called Amazon. But we're prepared to move forward as Staff's been great to work with, by the way. And I drifted off. We've got Robert Ameson here. Robert, if you'd stand up. The professional services that are going to be provided for the project will all be local. Robert is leading that team. He's the general contractor for the project. Here today, we've got Rushton Rice. Rushton, tell them who you are.
I'm a municipal financial advisor. I lived in Montgomery. I went to school here, and I had a lot of family here in Tuscaloosa. They've gone and we were engaged to do an economic kind of an impact study and I got engaged on this thing and got the pleasure of, I'd never worked with Stan or Linda or Robert. It's been a lot of fun learning about this great market. But we dug down in to see what sort of a project could be supported. And we've been working with the city and with Stan as the structure has evolved. And so I'll be here to comment on what, if anybody has any questions or would like or be interested to hear the economic impact of Encore on Tuscaloosa, if anybody cares.
I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you some questions later, and I think hopefully it'll be the pertinent questions. And then I have Patrick Hogan, a senior person on my team, senior manager at the paint companies. Patrick, you must tell them where you come from.
Originally, I'm actually from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I met a nice Alabama girl, and I liked her, and I didn't like shoveling snow, so
Done deal.
came on down, met Stan, and been working with Stan for the past year.
So he's been specifically working on Bama-Dixie, done a real good job there. Headed up with Robert, getting the Guthrie's built and open, and he's got a lot more. He's got a lot of things on his plate. His wife says he gets home late. I told her that was a requirement of the job if you worked for me, if you got to go home at all. There's been an unbelievable effort along with the staff to come with something that'll work to make Encore reach its full potential, to maximize what it can do for Tuscaloosa. Scott's done a good job of recognizing it's the front door of the community. Everybody from Carly, the numbers, the legal department, it's been a good process. It's been a lengthy process. I told one of the papers one day, they asked me to describe myself in one line, and I said, well, I'm the most patient, impatient person that you'll meet. And I mean, if you look at this, some people would say this Encore's been like making souse meat. I hope it's more like producing a good bottle of wine. We've gone through the risk. We've grown the grapes. There's been some grape stomping went on and some squeezing. But we had a barrel and let it stay a long time, and I think maybe we're about to get to the fine bottle of wine with this project. I'm asking this finance committee in the city to step up and recognize that we've demonstrated in several areas in the city that we're capable of making good things happen, that ultimately perform, create jobs. There'll be close to 2,000 jobs created at this site. And all you have to do, as an example, is look down at the exit 71 and look at the Lowe's quadrant and look at the movie theater and what's happened around there. We went with a blank sheet of paper there. Now, not only do they have thousands of jobs, tremendous amount of ad valorem tax impact. Exit 73 is a much better site than exit 71. And the amount of interest in 73 over the years, has been phenomenal. The amount of interest, let me say to each of you, the real estate business is better today than it's ever been. That's the good news. The bad news is it can't last forever. So we do not need to miss this opportunity, and it is now. We are in discussion with 3 major retailers that everybody in this room would recognize. A couple of them are doing their own site plans. And there are significant retailers. As Scott pointed out, our vision, now what's gonna happen, it's not a vision. We're gonna have restaurants, we're gonna have hotels, we're gonna have retail and some service in this project, period. Things anybody in this room and most people you'll meet, they either know real estate or know Tuscaloosa, know the McFarland Mall site. I don't think there's anybody that questions whether it's good property or whether it can be a successful project. What I want to make sure everybody understands is that I have more passion for this project than anything I've ever done. Everybody, or the most of you in the community, knows that the state of Alabama saw fit to name the new bridge after my father. I think my father stands square up for the blue collar man. He worked hard. He'd be disappointed in me if I didn't work hard to make that project that's in the shadow of that bridge best it can be. Now we have to recognize it is Tuscaloosa, but there are good things that have happened and more good things that will happen in Tuscaloosa. These 3 major retailers, 2 could fit on the site, but any one of them would be phenomenal for the community. I could put a lot of questions to rest that come over the years. There's some restaurants, it's very interesting, and Patrick, we can't say who, but yesterday I was in negotiations with a restaurant. Was it you that ran into the lady today? Was it today? So want to know what we'd have to do to get that. So there's going to be a lot of satisfied people as these names are ultimately announced. I think it's well known there's a hotel. I don't think we're under a lot of confidentiality agreements, but I think everybody knows that's been paying attention to the project that Drury Inn has been pounding on me for 2 years to get started with, is it 10-story hotel, Robert, or 6? How many is it? 8 to 10. 8 to 10-story hotel on the McFarland or the Encore site. That's just one. As Scott mentioned, there's at least one other hotel that wants to come to the site. My vision is to get the restaurants there. The restaurants that people like, as many as possible, and then the major retailer. Convenience store was really wanting to go on the corner. I'm not as keen on the convenience store as I would be having something different on that best corner in town. We'll see how that works out. We're going to be selective. I've always been selective. I've gotten some criticism in the past about being too selective as who we let go on sites. I'm going to continue to be patient and deliberate, but timing is right. I've had rush work hours and hours and hours because we're not asking the community to put up 1 penny, not asking this community to risk 1 cent. I'm asking you to show confidence in me and the team, whether it be employees or the professional services providers that are working with me, that we can do this project and deliver something that everybody will be proud of. Won't be everything in there somebody wants, but there will be a lot that Tuscaloosa does not have. In fact, there's some very specific language in the agreement about what would qualify to provide revenues for the incentives. Rush has done work that shows that actually the project should return all of the incentive money requested in about 14 years. At the end of 14 years, the project would be generating about $8+ million for the city of Tuscaloosa. $8+ million. The other thing it would be doing, if you look right now, there's about $10,000 going to school tax, the school portion of the property tax. In year 14, it'd be $350,000 going toward the schools from the development of this project. Today, we have almost a clean sheet of paper to get started, and it's generating little or no revenue for the city nor for the owner. But the patients will pay dividends for the community. And actually, while it's been a long path, it'll be fine for me and my team. And what I'd like to do is, going on a bit, is take questions. I mean, I can talk for the rest of the day about it, but I may not answer the question that you have on your mind about it, so.
And Stan, and none of the education, there's nothing abated towards it.
Nothing abated.
So day one, when something opens, education is already getting more as part of it.
I really didn't clarify that well, but I just wanted to know. I really was just saying the day that we believe that it'll be paid off, what it would generate. I think it'll actually be better with inflation, but you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about that word these days. But it will greatly benefit the city of Tuscaloosa and me. I don't have another 15 years, I don't think. Other than this morning, I was encouraged. The lady on TV was having her 105th birthday, and she went and volunteered at the facility she was in before she decided to move there at age 100. So, Mayor, I may be back up here when I'm 100. So. But with that said, you're exactly right, Mayor, on the school tax. Day one, the schools start benefiting from the site being redeveloped. But Councilman Lanier has been great to work with. Again, I can't stress Scott and Tom, Carly, the staff. It's the best staff that I've been around since I've been doing things in Tuscaloosa, and I have to say that about the council. It's a good team that we have interfaced with to hopefully be able to get something done here. But Councilman Lanier, we've had some good times with it. What we found out is his father was one of my good friends. We never spoke during the elections, but and yes, I still got some bruises, Councilman. But it has been good, and it's gonna be good. We're about to start crushing the concrete on the site. We're gonna reuse that concrete, recycle it there on the site. We're going to tear down the Books A Million building probably next week. Right now it's Monday, Tuesday, maybe of next week. And we're ready to get going. If this finance committee can see favorable to get it in front of the council and ultimately get a up or down vote. So Councilman Lanier.
Stan, thanks for coming in. I think we got a couple of questions budding here, and then if Rush has got a short synopsis type presentation on the the benefits. Like to hear that too, if y'all are prepared for that.
Well, he can confirm, remember, we're under a confidentiality agreement with some of this economic development. He can confirm that, break-even line with me, and maybe he can give you a few along the way, but that is a confidential document at this point. And certainly you can visit with each of you or any of you, but listen, what he's doing is protecting me to make sure when I put that first $30–40 million out there on the ground, that I'm not wrong, and that these incentives, the guy that winds up in trouble if this don't work is not this city, it's this guy. And it is just that simple. And that is the agreement that's been worked out with the city. It's not a one-sided agreement because I know the city. I know who wants to be in this city. So I'm comfortable taking the risk. The only question is, are y'all comfortable in supporting it?
We're good.
I don't think the financial data that the council was provided, and you may want to correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's been any significant changes from 6 or 7 months ago that were brought to the council.
There hasn't been any changes, but I wanted to make sure that Rush was here, A, so everybody could see him, B, so he could confirm at least some points in that data that I think are very important for the decision here today. Let me just tell you this, there's at least one retailer in the mix that you give it about 6 years, 7 years, that this whole thing could be a significant recovery of those incentive dollars we're talking about. Now, they've got a big ask, but we want one of these retailers in this project, and we believe that we're under confidentiality agreements with them. The site plan has not even been shown to the marketplace for various reasons. It'll be really unveiled at Las Vegas at the shopping center convention that I think all of you know about, that occurs once a year, where all the national retailers and the fast foods and the restaurants, they all come together with the developers to work on new deals. And that'll be mid-May. And we're hoping that we're prepared to be able to go. I think the city usually sends someone out there. Is someone going this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. Let's see what questions or
All right,
comments.
let's go.
Mr. Pate, I got a question. One of, I guess, in this process, one of my biggest concerns is if we're going to incentivize something like we're talking about, what exactly are we going to incentivize, right? And you've mentioned several opportunities and maybe a big retail, different things. Talk a little bit about the timing of how long, if you're talking with 3 or 4 people, how long would it be before you say is it 33 acres? Is that right? 30, what was it, a little over 30 acres?
Depends on how much of it you put in streets.
Okay, but just say in the 30 acres, how long will you wait to say this is the right plan for this property and we're going to incentivize blank, blank, and blank? How do you talk through that process of how you will determine best use?
But we have 3 contracts laying on my desk. I've refused to sign any of those contracts because we would like to see one of those retailers settle down in the site. Now, Drury Inn has picked a place that they would like to sit on that site. But it made it very clear they'll move around if it gets in the way of something that needs to have where they've picked. Their deal, most of the retailers, most of your fast foods, most of your restaurants, when you sign a contract with them, they're going a minimum of 180 days to do their due diligence. Some of them won't even longer. So you could see somebody under contract or a negotiated lease, and Lyndon can speak to this, that they might actually be able to walk away from the deal for that period of time. They decide they don't like something. We know the environmental is good on the site. That gets us over a good hurdle. We know the title is good. We've got a good Altus survey. The things that we've done in advance of doing deals makes it simpler for folks who might be interested to get through that process, and we owe quicker. A Drury Inn takes how long to build that project, Robert?
16 months.
They say a bit longer, but it's you know, it's over a year and a half, 2 years for them to actually build their building. So the significant benefits you're going to see about 3 years from now, the significant benefits, 2.5, 3 years. You're going to see 5 or 6 restaurants out there. They're all going to be restaurants that this community wants. I mean, we know they want them because we get the calls. We've talked about some of the brands, the names, the 3 retailers. There's been discussion about the names of those retailers in these confidential meetings. And I'm not prepared, I certainly will meet with any one of you individually to talk about it, but they are not in the marketplace, and people of Tuscaloosa would love to have them in the marketplace. I had a retired United States Senator tell me he was tired of having to drive to shop at one of these particular potential retailers. There's going to be coffee. You know, we know, but all of us know that Starbucks has expanded in this marketplace. They've expressed interest in having another coffee up there. And when people get off of an interchange, they expect to now find some coffee. Dutch Brothers is interested in the interchange. Those are 2 names that I can mention. But they're just what people expected to go along at one of these sites. And I mean, we've had interest from automobile dealership. That's not really my vision there. I've turned down automobile dealerships for that site for the last 12 years. In fact, the Hyundai place, my friend who owns it, came to me with his engineering group, with his builder too, and wanted to go to the mall site. And I said, you know, I think you're better off to go out where they located. And he'll tell you today that I didn't send him the wrong way. I hated to send him away because he's good for the money, but I didn't think he was good for the site. And I still believe the delay in not having the sale of automobile dealership site, it serves me and the city better, serves the project better. If an automobile dealership come along, I come back and visit with some of y'all and say, do you want me to do it? You will necessarily have some input. I'll pick up the phone and call you, say, and if, starting with this guy right here, it's his district. You know, one of the things, another thing I didn't mention, is the impact of this project on the south side of town. When this project is announced and starts, there are already people asking. There's a lot of substandard, unapproved, obsolete structures down there that will immediately come into play. So don't expect just to see this project, but expect to see what this project does in the way of impacting the overall area. But again, hotels, restaurants, some retail, maybe some service, maybe.
Mr. Wilson, you had a question or comment?
No, sir.
Oh, I thought you did.
I was looking at Mr. Crow.
You got another
Now,
question?
just how long, if this incentive is improved, Mr. Pate, how long do you think it would be before these announcements would happen and the property would be filled in with the vision? if things are happening.
Well, if one of the retailers comes along and takes 20 acres, we ain't got much else to do but sing. But if we don't get that huge retailer, then the next retailer is, 75% the size. It takes a big chunk. The next one is about half the size. It takes 10 acres instead of 20. I mean, you called out the acreage a minute ago. One of these retailers takes 20 acres. So, I mean, it really just it consumes the site. And if it does, everything I've said here to you today, would necessarily change. But to answer your question, it begins to reach maturity as planned in about 5 years. And that's the reason you're able to get to that hurdle that Rush has done the work on. With inflation, it probably is short of his 13, 14 years. Probably pushes itself back to 10 or 11. That's 10 or 11 after the 3 years to get some things on the site and get them going. And what we're going to do is spend money for a long time. I promise you the nicest of landscaping. We've had that discussion. Signage, lighting. There's going to be some things that are going to be done out in Skyland Boulevard and at the intersection of Skyland and McFarland to update what you see in the way of signals and signal arms. I've had many discussions with Director Cooper about this project, and I sort of told him, I'm going to leave it for the next generation to develop it, and I don't have any children, so that could be a long time for the next generation. But he's on board to do what the state can do, and certainly to work with me as a developer to make sure that the transportation off the site is as good as it can be. Worked on a project, and the mayor actually worked on it back when you were involved, and it was a bigger vision. I spent a lot of money with the state, and ultimately it was decided, instead of doing a flyover or something, to do some work at grade. One of the busiest intersections and one of the most dangerous intersections. Mostly low speed accidents. I was talking about the work with the highway director and the mayor to look at making the improvements down there to make Skyland and McFarland a safer intersection. I mean, look at downtown and how nice the traffic signals, the signage, the landscaping looks. Same thing is going to happen at Encore. Just is. And for some of the reasons I told you earlier, but it's what I expect to see as well. See, you have to make me do it. It's what I want to do, and it's what we do.
So I want to offer the other council members who are not on the committee a chance. If they have any questions or comments. I know, looking around the room, several of you have put a lot of hard work into this. Anything?
I'm happy to be getting to this point because it's before Cassius was on the council. We've had a lot of discussions about it. So congrats to Cassius. I know you worked hard. I'm excited about it and can't wait to see some details.
Thank you. The way I see this here today is, I didn't want to bring the rear view mirror to this meeting. I wanted to bring the windscreen and where we're going together, working together. It's been a great process. I mean, again, Scott and Tom, where's Tom? Yeah, they worked hard, really hard, and staff with Carly with the numbers, and there's many ways to do this, but this is the best way for the city not to have any risk. It puts me, look, This is a eat what I kill. Okay? And we're pretty good hunters.
Mr. Lanier, yep, Mr. Tyner,
Nah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I
some
think
mayor
we work-
around there. Go ahead.
We worked a lot, worked hard on this. I'm grateful to the mayor and the council who gave me their full support, but most, except Mr. Phil. No, I'm just playing. But, and then definitely, staff.
Yeah, I've had a lot of
Carl,
people.
You know, everybody who was there behind Ms. Peacock, cause we ran them through the ringer. I know we did with this and that, but I'm just telling you, this development is super important to me, super important to the people in District 7. I know they deserve it. I know they're excited about it. And like Stan said, Walt said, it's the front. They said the gateway. I said the front door to Tuscaloosa. Kip would definitely say University Boulevard, but who can blame a man for loving this district? With that being said, I love mine, and I definitely want to see this happen. And Mr. Pate is super excited, and I'm trying to do it while the grease hot.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but since Mr. Lanier called my name.
Yeah, I know that.
I've had a lot of people, Stan, ask me about this because they think it's in my district, and I've said, oh no.
It used to be.
Well, it used to be, I said, oh no, but now, Cassius, if this goes through and it turns out, I'm gonna claim it. I'm gonna tell them.
If you do that, I'm gonna claim something.
All
right, enough land claims going on here.
Let me say that this is not only gonna impact south of the interstate, but McFarland Boulevard between the interstate and our grove has been a bit slow you got 3 buildings for sale or properties for sale down there right now that shouldn't be for sale. O'Charlie's building shouldn't be for sale. That's as good a real estate as you can ask for. The service station, the Shell station that was there next door to it, that's good real estate. It shouldn't be sitting there. The piece of land where the racetrack used to be, it still sits there, vacant after they tore it down. One of the hotels is now up for sale. That quite frankly would have been better had they asked less for it before they put the rehab dollars in it, and it had been torn down. I don't want to talk bad about somebody else's property, but there's a lot of the Hardy's building. I would love to be able to buy that. Hopefully, with the Guthries that just opened and what we're doing across the street, Hardy's will actually, that building's it's over 40 years old. It needs to be replaced. Hardy's have got some new prototypes out. Wouldn't it be great if they said, okay, we can spend some real money here and replace it? So there's a lot that's going to happen. It's not on this site, because once people see this site being developed, they can trust the area. They can trust that they need to get on board before they miss out. And that's a little bit of that's already happening, because believe me, there's some people that know that there's a possibility of something happening here pretty quick if you as a council see that it's the right thing to do.
Mayor?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Pate for your kind words to our team members.
It's been good.
Mr. Holmes, his team, Mr. Bobbitt, who couldn't be here today, Ms. Standridge, they have really dug into this process, and we appreciate you and your team engaging in us looking at different ways to go about this over the past year. And I think all of us not trying to take ownership in one way has created what got us here today. So we're deeply thankful for that. I appreciate the city council over the past year and your guidance to us as we've been moving forward. I think that input and guidance has gotten us to a point today that we have something that we think can really be a domino that falls in such a positive way for South Tuscaloosa.
Sure.
We talked earlier about the amphitheater, And that was a domino that needed to fall that has created so much progress. I see this as a domino, that if this domino falls, the reverberations go from both east and west of 82 and Skyland, which also need as well, to what Mr. Pate talked about, that O'Charlie's, the old Shell station. Those properties, they will begin to see the redevelopment along that corridor all the way up. And I couldn't agree more. From 73 to Hargrove has been slow. And I think when this domino falls, it will put gasoline on that economic fire that we want to see moving from south to north up to Hargrove Road. So it's certainly an important decision, a crucial decision, but one that I can assure you that the due diligence on both sides, we are both confident in putting forward to this finance committee, and hopefully it will receive favorable review.
All right.
The other thing that, for those of you who can do, Mr. Busby, you'd be perfect for this. You can do present values. When you look at that tax stream that is going to pay the incentives and look at the time period it's going to take and present value it back, it's not nearly as big a number as it sounds like. In fact, we will spend as much money in the first round of infrastructure as the present value of the incentive. So on day one, we're going deep at risk. But I'm absolutely confident that we will be successful. And, to the extent, we've had a couple of good years, but to the extent we need a lender, their lenders are lined up to step in. And they're waiting the outcome of this and a few meetings going forward to see if there's actually an incentive agreement and actually a project. And again, I don't have too many 15-year periods that I would be active. Of course, there was a guy here in town that started Olin Mills. He was planting pine trees when he was 90 years old, so I don't ever say never. But we got to get some new roads, some more land if we're going to still be developing property many, many years to come. And by the way, this helps with that. The more developing you got, and the more success you got, the more the people want to come and be a part of it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing your team in.
Does that mean I got to
Thank-
vote it down?
You can sit down, you can stay up, we don't care.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
this has been a long back and forth process.
Yes, sir.
And this thing, as so many endeavors do, looks dramatically different today as it arrives on our tabletop than it did when it started out. I mean, I'm not, just this most recent iteration, how many months ago was it, Mr. Holmes?
It was late last spring. It was real close to 12 if it hadn't been.
So my hope would be that we would get this to the full council promptly. This exceeds by several magnitudes any incentive this city has done before. It impacts districts across the entire city. This is definitely a 7-person vote. And I would like to move this forward to full council promptly if there is a motion to do that.
So moved.
You can.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Item moves forward to full council at the
Yes, sir, just
rate at which you can run the traps.
yes, sir. Just for the record, we have to do the public notice, which has to go in the newspaper at least
I
7 days
understand.
prior. Mr. Bobbitt's actually been working on that. That should probably go in the newspaper next Monday. As long as it goes in by next Tuesday, if this will appear on the council agenda for a public hearing
2
on May
weeks
the
from now,
7th.
right?
Yes, sir.
Check. That's what we were expecting. All right. Any other questions? Any other business to be brought before finance? I've crossed over into Ms. Howard's public safety time. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.